Let's call the meeting to order, please. Take the roll.
Mayor Zakowski.
Here.
Alderman Kittle.
Here.
Alderman Vries.
Here.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Here.
Alderman Gartner.
Here.
Alderman Grady.
Here.
Alderman Montello.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Your motion to adopt the agenda. We're going to make one change on. We're going to move 7-2 to 7-1.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to offer a motion that we adopt the agenda with the change that you have laid out.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? So move. Any public comments?
No one signed in.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, I'll offer a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Business conditional use permit application, 5 Loaves Food Pantry and Thrift Store.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. SCH, on behalf of 5 Loaves Food and Clothing Center, submitted 2 conditional use permit applications for 648 West 4th Street. The parcel is located south of West 4th Street across from Sunshine Courts. The applicant is seeking to construct an 8,000 square foot building to be used as a food pantry and thrift store. The first conditional use permit is to allow the operation of a food shelf in the Z4 zoning district. And the second conditional use permit is required to exceed the maximum impervious surface in the Z4 district, which is 40%. The applicants are proposing an impervious surface of 43.2%, so 3.2% over what is allowed. The proposed building is 1 story and will be 24 feet tall. The exterior finishes include engineered wood siding with metal windows and door casings consistent with city requirements. The site will be accessible via one entrance on West 4th Street. The site is designed to allow a semi-truck to do a full 180-degree turnaround. There will be a 5-foot wide sidewalk connecting the building to a new mid-block pedestrian crossing on West 4th Street. When implementing mid-block crossings, pedestrian safety is the top priority. To enhance the visibility and alert drivers of this mid-block crossing, we included in the plan set RRFB signs, rectangular rapid flashing beacon signs, which the pedestrian can press as they come up to the intersection and they will flash. High visibility crosswalk striping, ADA compliant curb ramps, pedestrian ramps, crossing warning signs, no parking signs, and there's an existing street light above the crossing. The applicant has proposed a total of 29 stalls, including 2 accessible stalls, and if needed, overflow parking will be directed to West 4th Street. There are no parking restrictions on West 4th Street in the area. We just have to keep in mind the odd-even winter parking. The applicant is proposing a nice landscaping plan with 215 trees, shrubs, grasses, and flowers, which will provide adequate screening and is consistent with city requirements. City staff and the Planning Commission recommend approval of the conditional use permit with 4 conditions. Following the Planning Commission meeting, the city staff recommend adding 1 condition, which would allow the city to require water testing if there's any suspicion of water quality impacts due to the proximity to the city well. So we're recommending 5 conditions total. I'm happy to answer any questions. We have Sarah, our engineer, here, and then lots of representatives from the food shelf as well.
I'd make a motion to approve the conditional use permit.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yeah, a little bit. First of all, I want to congratulate all of you people on this project. It's been a long time coming, and it's really nice to see it finally get over the goal line here. Of course, we'll all wait for the footings to get dug in first. But one of the comments I had earlier, and I talked with Beth about it, is I had anticipated that there would be some traffic coming off West 5th Street, and it sounds like that's not going to happen. The only entrance you'll have for this building is on Business 64.
Anybody else?
Is there some type of, is there some kind of access from Fifth Street?
West Fifth Street ends literally where that property starts.
Yep. But,
That's
but
where,
it's,
that's where our well is.
but it's south of there.
No, it runs almost in the middle of that property. A little bit on the south side, but it's almost in the middle. That property goes pretty deep.
We had a detour running through there several years ago when the road was closed that ran right
I
through
guess
that-
it is
that-
more on the south side,
Yeah,
Mike, now that I
yeah.
look at the map, it is more on the south side, but, I think it'd be good to.
We did
close-
have discussions initially with the applicant about connecting to West Fifth Street, so there'd be two entrances. But there were concerns that if we made that a full or with two access points, that vehicles and pedestrians would be taking the shortcut and cutting through their lot. So they did not choose to proceed with two entrances.
I think plus less traffic by Monette Park makes a lot of sense. too.
Yes.
Good, I'm glad to see that. And
Well, I'm very glad to see this project going forward. This is a really, really good thing for the city. So thank you guys for all your work.
So if, this is on TV, so if somebody wants to come up here so the public knows when you're gonna start, when you're gonna finish, those types of things, that'd be helpful, because people see that, hey,
it's like Larry's back there hiding.
Matt Toonstra, I'm Vice President of the Five Loaves Food Shelf Board.
David McNutt, Macklin Homes.
So right now, we are close to having all of our fundraising completed. We've got a little bit left that we want to do, but we're well on our way to having the funds needed to complete the project. After hopefully approval here tonight, we can submit for state approval, which we've been told can take a few weeks to 60 days before we hear back from them. If all things go well, we'd like to break ground yet this summer. June timeframe is what we'd like to do. I'll let Dave speak to how long the project's going to take.
Yep, we're anticipating a start date in late May, early June, estimating a 6 to 8 month build time. Ideally, I'd like to see us get in before the end of the year here. We've done a great job with all the fundraising, have a lot of the capital needs that we need to move forward. We've got a lot of commitments from our subcontractors, and obviously we've been working on this for a couple years and been in a capital campaign. So there's been some public awareness to it, and we're ready. So we're ready. And the current location is
Not optimal.
not
Yeah.
optimal. Yeah.
I've just got a question on has the city done anything as far as financially or helping out or concessions or anything for this project? This is a greatly important project in this city.
The city hasn't made a contribution to the capital campaign, if that's what you're getting, and it wasn't.
Something, yeah.
And we didn't, the city didn't contribute to the acquisition of land or anything like that, so.
anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Take the roll, please.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Grady,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Motion passes. Congratulations. Have fun moving forward. It's gonna be easier now, probably.
I'll be there Thursday. Okay.
Thank you. Next item, Resolution 032601, 2025 amended budget. Rayanne.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, we have before you the amended 2025 budget for your consideration. So before we do the formal, kind of go over the formal resolution, I just wanted to give highlights in regards to the general fund, kind of where we're at from a debt service perspective, and then also briefly go over our fund balance as a result of 25's performance. So if we can go to the first slide. So for general fund revenues, we had a budget of just over 9.6 million in 2025. Actual budgets were favorable, total of $11,293,629. So that was a favorable variance to budget of just under $1.7 million. On the next slide, we'll go over some of the main drivers of that favorable variance. Kind of leading the way is we collected an additional $581,000 in building permits above budget. That's an increase of 96% when we compare that to 2024. Interest earnings also performed favorably comparative to budget, again, due to favorable conditions resulting throughout the entire year. So we saw a pickup of an additional $289,173 in interest earnings. We had an unbudgeted receipt of $150,000 from development fees that were related to an unmet agreement obligation of a development agreement. We received $144,531 in share ride taxi grants and fares through the year. An additional $142,695 in insurance recoveries. This is from damages that were related to the storm damages from June and July, as well as if there was damages done through, struck lights or things of that nature in those receipts. We also have $93,638 in the utility pilot payment that was from the city. We had budgeted that annually. We budget what we received the prior year. So because there was more infrastructure put in place, that pilot payment increased in 2025 as well. We received an additional $47,439 in room tax collections, $44,101 in tax increment district administrative fees. Those are fees that we charge out to the tax increment districts for the management of those areas as well. And then lastly, we received $41,283 in various grants and donations throughout the year. On the expense side, we had a balanced budget in 2025, so our revenues are matching what our expenditures were from a budget perspective of just $9.6 million. We had actual expenditures totaling $10,212,375. That was an unfavorable variance of $607,482. However, the favorable variance on revenue more than offset the overage that we experienced on expenditures. And so when we look at revenues over expenses, the net position ended in a favorable variance of $1,081,253 in total. On the next slide are some of the drivers from expense perspective. On the top of that list would be $550,000 that we had in investments related to the library building project. Those were used this year for the construction of the project and therefore are shown as an expense on the general fund side. We also had $188,573 in share ride taxi operational expenses. Again, you'll recall on the revenue side, we had a favorable pickup of $144,000. So we partially offset those share ride expenses by the revenues that were taken in. We also had $60,471 in insurance repairs that actually occurred in regards to repairs that we sustained as damages from equipment, vehicles, and or infrastructure. As I mentioned on the revenue side, we had total insurance recoveries of $162,000. We only had expenses of $60,000. What ends up happening with that variance? It ends up being a carry forward into 2026. So as we continue to address the storm damage that we suffered in the summer of this year and do those repairs into 2026, those funds then would be reappropriated into the budget in 26. We also had $59,000 in unbudgeted due to some reorganization from moving from a director of public works structure to a city engineer structure. That really was just a shift in where things were budgeted at. So the director of public works used to be budgeted underneath streets and parks, and now with the city engineer, it's its own department. $48,575 in airport capital projects. This included the completion of a seaplane ramp at the airport, also costs associated with the engineering aspects of the water main study, and then the demolition of the house on the airport property and the abatement of $41,340 in repairs and maintenance associated with public works equipment, an additional $32,878 in the downtown lighting project engineering expenses. We had a medical reserve payment due to an eligible retirement this year of $27,702. A $17,300 expense due to our contracted plumbing contracts. And then lastly, a $15,000 expense related to business and technical park topography and CSM.
Got a question on the airport. Is that our share of that, or are we just paying 5% of that?
So the projects that are covered underneath on the capital projects, those were costs all borne by the city.
So this is our,
Correct.
what we're paying, okay.
Yep, correct. Any other questions on revenue and expenses before we move into so for general obligation debt in 2025, we had total principal and interest payments that were just over $2.9 million. At the end of the year, our general obligation debt outstanding is just under 23 million at $99,869. In 2025, we did 2 issuances of debt that were related to the construction for the new Richmond Library. In April, we issued a $10 million New Richmond Community Development lease revenue bond. That bond, again, it's not counted as the general obligation of the city because it's backed by the full pledge of the lease revenue. However, that debt is repaid through the general fund as an expense of the library. And then in December 2025, we took out a $1.6 million state trust fund loan, which we drew $1.3 million on that in December. We drew the other remaining $300,000 in the first quarter of 2026. So the outstanding balance when we look at general obligation debt at the end of the year includes just the $1.3 million and not the 1.6. When we look at where debt payments are paid from, this year we had 63% of our debt that was being paid by the property tax levy. 34% was being repaid through the revenues or the rates that are paid through our water, our electric, and our sewer, as well as our stormwater utility. And then the last portion, 3%, was repaid through our tax increment districts. When we look at kind of that graph on the left-hand side, it shows you the historical trend of where our general obligation debt has been over the last 10 years. The blue line is the city's internal policy in regards to our target debt to not be exceeded. So underneath city-owned policy, we try to not exceed a 40% of our available debt capacity for issuance. The red line is what we could be able to issue underneath the state guidelines as a state maximum. So the state calculates that we are able to issue up to 5% of our equalized value of the city, which is just over $81 million. But you can see from a city's perspective, we have a more restrictive policy in place, which restricts that to 40% of what the state says that we can issue. And at this point in time, we are at 60%, 67% of our allowable internal policy of debt being issued. Any questions on that side of things? Okay. Lastly, then we're going to move into fund balance. Fund balance is an important measurement for any municipality. It shows the liquidity that we have. It's an important measurement that our creditors are looking at to ensure that we have the funds available to meet our obligations in the future. There are 3 components that make up fund balance. You have a unrestricted. Unrestricted means that it doesn't have any stipulations around it aside from the fund balance policy itself. So it's those surplus funds that, from this year that would then be adding into the fund balance. And then the fund balance policy really drives how the council is able to view those funds, how they could be expended once we hit all of our target thresholds. And we'll kind of get into what that looks like a little bit later as well. The second portion of fund balance is what's called assigned fund balance. These are where we place our own internal kind of covenants around those dollars and how they should be used. So for example, insurance recoveries that I kind of talked about earlier, those insurance recoveries coming in, we assign those so that they're being used for the sole purpose of the repairs that where those repairs needed to come from whatever damage was sustained by the insurance recovery offsetting those. And lastly is what is called non-spendable. Non-spendable is exactly that. It's maybe a future obligation that's not in a liquid form or a cash form. And so it's essentially kind of it's restricted portion of it. Not necessarily a lot of control that we have over a non-spendable because again, it's not in a format that's readily able to turn into cash. And then lastly, we look at what are our fund balance targets. We have 2 targets. We adopted a fund balance policy in 2022. Those 2 targets look at the first measurement is what's called unassigned fund balance, which is a percentage of expenditures. Our minimum underneath that measurement is a 30% ratio and our target is a 40% ratio. The second measurement is what's called the available fund balance ratio of the government-wide financial statement. So that's taking into account not just the general fund, it's taking into account our general fund, our capital projects funds, our enterprise funds. So really looking at the holistic liquidity of the city as a whole. And so with that, those ones, the minimum target is 40%, and our target that we would like to achieve is 60%. And that 60%, you might ask, where does that come from? That is a measurement and a ratio amount that's coming directly from Moody's. That's what they are looking at for a community our size with our kind of demographics and makeup that they're looking for us to have 60% as their target. So at the end of the year, our fund balance as a whole, you can see on the top, is at $6,760,207. This is an increase from prior year. The unrestricted fund balance, that first piece that I talked about, that had an increase of $908,290, which is a 19.5% increase from last year, and is resulting in a balance of $5,573,420. Assigned fund balance also increased $277,012. This is a 30.9% increase from prior year, and the resulting balance of assigned fund balance is $1,173,677. The primary increase associated with assigned fund balance is due to the medical reserve account being able to be fully funded in 2025. And lastly, the non-spendable actually had a decrease, which is a positive. That means that those forms now are becoming into a liquid form. So we were able to decrease our non-spendable fund balance of $104,047, which is 88.8% from prior year. And so the ending balance for non-spendable is just over $13,000. As I mentioned, our fund balance uses those 2 forms of measurement to assess our financial health. While we're also assessing the financial health, these are important measurements for our creditors and our rating agencies as well. So as I mentioned, the first measurement, which is based on the government-wide unrestricted fund balance over total revenues, that ratio has a target of 60%. In 2024, the city had an actual ratio of 53.5%, and it is estimated that that ratio will increase to 55% for the year ending in 2025. So while we're making significant progress to be moving closer to our target, we haven't quite reached it yet of that 60%, but we are nearing being able to be closer to that. And then the second measurement, which is looking at unassigned fund balance as a percentage of expenditures, we are hitting that target ratio of and exceeding the 40%. So in 2024, we had a ratio that was at 48.6%, and we're estimating that will increase to 54.7% at the end of 2025. We don't finalize those ratios until the audit is completed. So when the audit is completed in the summer, we will rerun those calculations based upon the consolidated financial statements, and then we would bring that back to the council as an update as the 2027 budget process begins. So if we were meeting our targets in both measurements, we could discuss how future fund balances would be potentially utilized as part of those future budget cycles. But again, we don't do that until the audited statements are completed.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we approve the adopted amended 2025 budget, carry forward and assign funds as it's presented in the memo.
I'll second that.
Then just two things. And you did mention it, and I just want it to be repeated that we are fully funding the MRA. So we've had this, you hear with large cities, Illinois is probably the example that comes to mind the most about unfunded. And it isn't really a pension item, but you could kind of call it that. With this action, we will be at zero. So unfunded MRA really isn't a pension thing, but I'm going to call it that for the purposes of this. The other thing, Rand, job well done. When I look at this, and you've got this breakdown by departments, right, and their expenditures, and I was looking, for example, at whatever the taxi falls under, sorry. I had it, and I went off of it.
It actually falls underneath, the taxi itself falls underneath Public Works.
Yeah, so, I see that, and you make a note in there about, there it is. You make a note in there about, that deficiency, that variance that's there really is a grant, is funded, is done by grants, et cetera. And it's just confusing. If somebody reads the graph and they say, wow, you're $188,573 over budget on the taxi, I just wish there was some way that we could actually say, yes, you do make the point in there that the variance is offset by state and federal funding received, but it'd really be nice if there was a number there. So that to the uninitiated, if they're reading this, the number's right there, the proceeds, we're not off. And I think perhaps, is it a stretch for me to say we're really not, we don't have a negative variance there at all, do we? I don't know the answer to that. I guess I'm making an assumption.
Yeah, so we budget around 15,000.
This says 10.
Sorry. 10.
No, that's okay.
So our net, I think this year ended up being an additional 34,000 that we had as an unbudgeted expense that was not covered by grants or fares.
And just since we're talking about the taxi relative to this, does the city have any say over, I had one of the taxi drivers spoke to me about hoping they could get a raise. And I know this is not on the agenda, so this isn't really a time or place, but do we have any input in that type of thing operationally?
Contract with a third party running incorporated to operate the taxi. So we aren't involved with them being employees
Right.
of the city. So that would be through running.
Sure.
In regards to, employee wages and salaries and benefits at this point in time. So
Okay, thank
what
you.
we do have control over is some aspects of the fares and then the hours of operation.
Thank you.
I've got a question. Next year, we're going to approach about 54%. Where do we sit with other cities in Wisconsin? Because do you have any idea what percent are actually getting close to that, and how many are struggling?
So each municipality could be adopting a different fund balance policy, so it's a little bit difficult to necessarily answer that question. If I recall, the auditors usually will provide us with an overview of the one measurement, which is looking at more of fund balance as a percentage of expenses or revenues of just the general fund. That second measurement, though, that we do, which is really looking at government-wide fund balance, that's really imperative, and that was direct feedback that we got from Moody's. And so while I think it's great that we're looking at other municipalities, when we're getting direct feedback from the credit rating agency that says this is a very key metric in municipalities that we're seeing throughout your state, I think that that lends itself to really say, like, we need to focus in on that area to ensure that, you know, we get the best bond rating on debt issuances that we can, because
Other questions?
The last thing, sorry, and I think you kind of touched on this, but when we talk about geo debt, we are not including the library in that because it's not geo debt.
correct, the $10 million.
Right, but it
the
is,
CD,
it
it
is,
still is debt, and it still
yeah.
is a debt service payment that we're having to make, which is why I mentioned that that payment shows up in the general operating expenses of the city, and underneath that, the 100 fund as a lease payment.
Well, I just bring it up because, you know, somebody looks at this and they see $22 million in geo debt, and getting back to why a healthy fund balance is so important, which I do think there's a relationship between that and the amount of debt we have outstanding, and the 22 million doesn't tell the whole story. So I realize why it's not in there. I just want to make a comment.
Anybody else? Take the roll, please.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Grady,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, tourism recommendation, 2025 fourth quarter funding.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In February, the Tourism Committee met to review applications that were received in 4Q25. All of this is included in your packet. Room tax collected in the fourth quarter was $39,364, which is less than $500 away from the biggest fourth quarter that we've had since we've been collecting that. So, and that's a combination of a lot of rooms filled and also increased cost of those rooms. So kind of equal. Essentially, they had $77,293 to give out to grants. They reviewed the 5 that were in the packet. And are recommending $29,105.82 in grants with a $48,187.87 carry forward. Pete and I were both there and happy to answer any questions.
First of all, I'll get a motion on the floor, so I'll make a motion to approve the tourism recommendation for the 5 items to be funded.
Second that.
Discussion.
I have one question. And I think maybe it was in your presentation of the amendment to the budget. Is there a point in time when these room tax revenues they're not carry forward funds?
Typically, they will always have a carry forward.
But I'm saying we get to the end of the year and there's going to be a carry forward balance after this. At what point does some of that money or does it always stay there?
Typically, what you're seeing in the carry forward is more so of the fourth quarter collections that we receive in first quarter. So we're posting that revenue back into the proper year in which it was incurred in. So it's kind of like that fourth quarter is always going to carry over into the first quarter as a budget amendment, but that's also then the first proceeds that are getting used in the following year as well.
Because we don't allocate 100% of the funds in any quarter. I don't think we have.
It's been a while since we've done that.
Yeah, so
We
I was just.
could.
We have, but.
Yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
just, my question is, if we haven't, and we have these carry forward funds, are they always there until allocated for this, or does any of that ever transition to, for lack of a better word, the general fund?
So underneath the room tax that's collected, so what would carry forward is 70%. The
Right.
city can retain 30%. So that 70% would always have to be carried forward. And so when we file like the room tax report that we have to do on an annual basis, that's showing the revenues coming in and how many expenses, we need to ensure that we're spending at least 70% of the revenue that was receipted in during the year. And we've never not been in a position where we haven't expended 70% as a whole. But that 30%, if that the city's expending, that also counts towards the room tax total expenses too. So I don't know if that's really answering your question, Mike, but
Well,
I mean, I
It
think
never,
we've,
Mike, I'll just say, it never goes away. There's always
Yeah,
gonna be
it's-
carry forward funds.
that's,
I mean,
yeah,
we've had a carry forward
okay, got
This is
it.
a state program,
pretty
correct?
consistently.
But some of these quarters have a lot more requests in them than others. So when we have carry forward funds, we're kind of looking for the future of what's gonna be coming in, requests in our next quarter.
Yeah, and I guess,
And we, you know,
I-
by doing this a number of years in a row, we kind of know which quarters are gonna be.
right, and I think I
higher.
understood that. My question really was, if you had, I'm not even suggesting like, oh, wait, we should do that. That's not at all where I'm going. If you had consistently less room tax allocation, you know, where you've got the requests and you're funding them, you in theory could have this carry forward balance that would start to build.
Yep.
And that's, I think if I understand what you're saying, we've never had that situation. The money does get expended. But in theory, if it ever did happen, the money would just continue to be there to be spent at some point in the future.
Or we lower the room tax and not collect as much.
Sure, but yeah, but the money's gotta be there. Or, because it doesn't ever flow to the general fund. That really is my question.
That's correct.
Got it, thank you.
But when you look at the total amount, the city gets 30%.
Yeah.
But now in this quarter, the city got another 25,000 because we're charging for utilities and other stuff like that. So actually, in all actuality, the city is getting more than 30%.
Sure, no, yeah, great point.
I don't, that was just this period, but I'm not sure about other periods. So how much did we take in last year total?
I think I pulled it up, but I'm like, don't think I have it on this.
Go ahead, Noah.
report.
I was just gonna, while they're looking that up, Craig had asked about whether this was a state program. I just wanted to follow up there's state requirements as to, again, the 30%, 70%.
Right.
The structure of having a tourism committee. But then as to, local eligibility and our review criteria, that's all set by each local municipality.
So the state could change that criteria at any point.
They could. So for example, we have to have a hotel representative on the commission.
Right.
The state legislature could change that in the future.
Or they could say you have to spend 100% of your revenues every year. They could do that.
Yeah, or the 30, 70% breakdown, that
Yeah.
could change in the future. Yep.
To go back to the question of last year comparative to, or 24 compared to 25. 24's room tax revenue was just under 154,000. And then in 2025's it was 177,430.
The city got 30% of the 177, and then whatever other things we apply for. So how much did the city actually get total last year with utilities and these other things that we requested?
Question is, as far as like paying for utilities for, like, the
Athletic fields and stuff like that.
I think this was the quarter pretty much that all of those things get.
That's what I'm
lumped
saying,
in.
some
The other-
quarters are bigger
the
than
other-
others. for
The other
city.
3 quarters, I don't think there was.
Typically, the city will put in their requests all in the fourth quarter
Fourth quarter,
for
yeah.
reimbursement. So, right. So when we look at just 50% of the total room tax revenue taken in, that equates to 53,231, and then we had the reimbursement requests of 27,000.
I don't mean to rain on your parade, Michelle, but I do think it's important that we remember the effects of inflation. To me, it
Yep.
would be more telling if we knew what vacancies ran during the course of the year instead of dollars collected, because
Yep.
if the, I have no idea, obviously inflation has touched
Yep.
every area of our life, but if the room rates went up a certain percentage, well, then obviously we would have that growth to look
Yeah.
at. So it would be beneficial to know if we're talking about, hey, there's more
Right.
people, which we all hope, obviously, to know what room rentals.
We have changed that. That was a discussion the tourism committee brought forward as well. And so they're supposed to turn in a informational page along with their payment each quarter. And it does ask what their vacancy percentage was, but it is voluntary for them to give that information. So it'll take a little bit before we get some good data to share, but moving forward, that will be a part of our report as well that you'll see.
I thought inflation was down.
Any other questions?
That's not on the agenda.
Anything else?
Comment?
Roll, please.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Alderman Grady,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes?
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Freeze.
Yes.
Motion passes. Knowles Avenue lighting improvements. Noah.
So last month, the city council authorized staff to solicit bids for the downtown lighting project. And then at the work session, we also reviewed the financial strategy for paying for the project. We had our bid opening last week, Thursday. You can see included in your packet, we had 3 bids that were received. The engineer estimate, again, plans were prepared by SEH. Their estimate for the project was $758,842. You can see we received 3 bids. The low bid was from Neo Electrical Solutions out of Hudson, with a low bid of $695,359.45. So it was actually below the original estimate from the engineer. We've worked with Neo Electrical Solutions in the past. As part of our due diligence, we look at references, past work that they've completed. We also feel that it was a competitive bid process. You can see our second bid just slightly higher. Well, you're just seeing the final total numbers. They solicit more of a line-by-line item, so we can see what the differences were there some outliers or things. We do feel it was competitive bids. So staff recommendation would be to award the project to the low bidder, which was Neo Electrical Solutions, in the low bid amount of $695,359.45, and authorizing staff to execute necessary contracts to proceed with the project. And if the project is approved, we'll work with the contractor to identify a more specific timeline. There is a substantial completion deadline of October 31st of this year. But just approving the contract tonight, I couldn't tell you if is work going to start in May, is it going to start in July? All that would be discussed. We'd have some additional engagement with the downtown business owners so they know more specifically, here's what that construction timeline looks like, and what any impacts would be on their businesses. So happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
I've got a couple of questions, but I'll get a motion on the floor to approve the low bid of $695,359.45.
I'll second.
Question I have is, what all does this include, this bid? Is this just electrical? Is this including the benches? Is this including the
Trash receptacles.
receptacles, trash, that kind of
So
stuff?
those amenities are not included as part of their bid project because staff would be able to just bid and place those separately after the work is completed. Now, this is the, not just the light poles, it's all new underground conduit.
Yep.
It includes some of the concrete replacement work that's needed, the removal of all the existing poles and infrastructure. So whereas the benches, flower planters, depending on the timeline for this, those are things that staff typically in the past with our, whether it's downtown or at our parks, usually we've assembled those ourselves and just placed those. So so those are not included as part of the bid. Part of that is also because if even if we were just purchasing them through the vendor, then they're going to mark it up with their overhead on top of it. So we can usually procure those a little cheaper.
One last question, and been questioned about this from several people, that we had one time had talked about maybe putting some sort of a speaker system with this. That's not part of this bid at this time?
It is not. The additional conduit does give us flexibility in the future were we to look to add outdoor music, if we were to add additional security cameras in the downtown, if there was another fiber provider that came to the community, instead of tearing up, we would have the conduit in place where we could actually rent them the space on a per foot basis, and they could actually run their fiber through the existing conduit. So, so as part of the project, we're actually running an additional conduit right now just to have it there. Because if you're mobilizing, have the contractor there, they're doing the underground boring, it's better just to have it there versus a few years down the road, bringing that contractor back and doing it all over again.
Good, thank you.
I actually wonder about if that isn't something that the whole thing about sound isn't something that should be moved to a higher priority level. And that's probably a discussion for another time, but I would challenge anybody to just walk downtown. And, you know, new lights are gonna be awesome. Trash receptacles, benches, wherever they go. But there are parts of the curb, for example, that look absolutely terrible. I mean, they've been chewed up by plows or whatever. And it just seems to me like we're gonna put this, boy, I really don't want to use this analogy, but we're gonna put the lipstick on. We really should kind of work with the foundation to make it look better. And I know curb is something I think, I don't, whether staff does it or not, but I do think there are certain things we should try to get done so that the downtown looks appreciably different other than just lights. I just want to throw that out.
Any other questions?
Yeah, first of all, Mike, you're exactly right. 100% right. Second, for the people watching at home, tell me exactly where to where, from where do the lights start, when do the lights finish, the new ones?
So the focus of the work is from 1st Street to 4th Street, both the east and west sides of Knowles Avenue. Now, some of the lighting does wrap around the intersections. Not trying to give you a complicated answer.
No,
but like there might be, okay, there's a light pole around the corner on 2nd Street, 3rd Street.
yeah.
So while the focus is on Knowles Avenue, some of the poles do go around, but we're not going a whole block down a side street. It's just if there wasn't sufficient lighting at that intersection, we may have added an additional pole. So for example, by Royal Credit Union on 4th Street, you know, we're not just stopping right at 4th Street. There'd be an additional pole either by RCU or potentially across the street by Dick's Market.
Yeah.
But the focus is on 1st to 4th Street though.
So my only point is we've got a long way to go either way for a lot of lights left. Because we all know Knowles Avenue is a lot longer than that little trunk of Knowles Avenue. And it's newer, the other sides of Knowles Avenue, but it's still, in years to come, it's going to be an issue. And for them not to match or for them to be forgotten, I think is something we gotta keep in mind.
I think
so the 1st to 4th Street, I would just say is the little different style of lighting, because really as you go north and south, it's really more of the roadway lighting. 1st to 4th, there's really the only section where it's really geared more for the pedestrians. So you'll see some taller light poles that are really for lighting up the street, where these smaller, more decorative features, while they do light the street, it's also more geared for the pedestrians. So we do replace the roadway lighting as some of those poles rust out and age over time. Those are going to be a lot taller than these that are placed on the sidewalk. But yeah, obviously there's a lot of poles. This is just one segment of it.
And you know, in addition to that, Craig, is it Renew New Richmond?
Yep.
The downtown group, they've had a lot of conversation about trying to, where applicable, getting the alleys kind of involved in the downtown business district. And I can see where improved lighting is definitely needed there. And I know that's not part of the plan, but it would be great if that's gonna become a reality, obviously lighting's gonna have to improve on those alleyways. So just for what that's worth.
I'll say right now, it's great that we got this first phase started. We had to start somewhere. But now I hope we have serious talks before budgets come up. Let's finish this project instead of piecemealing it. Like Mike said, there's other things, but let's get it done now. This might be the most costly part, I'm not sure. But this, when you're talking, you know, close 700,000, and we got a good bid on it, but I think we have to finish this project instead of saying, well, we'll move it 2 years down the line or 3. No, let's make our downtown stand out here. Like I always say, I think your downtown is the heart of your city. Let's not let it crumble.
And when we started this whole project, it was, like Jim just said, it was going to be, oh my gosh, look what they did to downtown, not, oh, a couple new poles. We want it to stand out. We want it to be intentional. That was always my goal, but
Now, this is being done now. Let's look to the future and hopefully we can get the rest accomplished next year. Let's see what the budget's gonna hold, but I sure would like to see it. I'm not gonna be here, but I sure would like to see it. Any other questions? Take the roll, please.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Grady,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
yes.
Alderman Freeze,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, seasonal electric workers.
The fall of 2022, we added 2 apprentice positions for electric department. One because of continued growth in the community, additional work, and as we try to ensure that we're providing high quality services to the community, but also as part of our succession planning and looking ahead to future retirements. We were excited here in the recent months for our first apprentice, Nick Cork, to complete the full program and earn his journeyman licensure. And then just recently, Mike Stry retired from the Richmond Electric Department after many years of service. As we look ahead, obviously the community continues to grow, but we have additional retirements on the horizon. So we have 3 other staff members on that department, combined of over 90 years of service here to just in our community. And the apprentice program takes 3 to 4 years to complete. And so it's not a situation where, hey, somebody retires and a few weeks later you just hire someone and they take their place. It takes some time. And so as we look ahead, while we have a new journeyman, Nick, who has completed the program, and we do have another apprentice who will complete his program at the end of 2027, we feel it would be in the best interest of the city to look at bringing on an additional apprentice this fall. Because even bringing on an apprentice this fall, they would not be completing their program then until the end of 2029. And then again, not knowing some of our existing staff when they may choose to retire. Now, rather than just interviewing someone later this year and bringing them on in the fall, as we look at workload over the summer, and now with Mike Stry's departure, we felt there'd be some advantage to also bringing on summer staff. And what we've looked at some other utilities have been doing is they'll bring them on as a summer employee and kind of get a feel for how they are, their work ethic, their, how are they actually out in the field, not just at a table doing an interview, so that we can kind of get a feel for, is it someone that we think would be a good fit for our team? And so what we're proposing doing is actually bringing on 2 summer staff to help out this summer, with the idea that one of them, if they're a good fit, would come on board in the fall as an apprentice. Now, if neither one's a good fit, their work would both be done in the summer. They would have limited number of hours, and but we would hope that at least one of the 2 would be a good fit to join the team. So we discussed this with the Utility Commission at their meeting last week. They were in support of this approach, and we wanted to bring it forward to the council tonight as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about it.
So if somebody else would announce their retirement besides Mike Stray, would you possibly hire both of them then?
We'd have to look at, work through the budget and see, but it also depends on how many students can go through the class in the fall, and obviously making sure we have high quality candidates. This is a position where in the past when we've advertised to say, hey, we'll hire an existing journeyman or apprentices, very rarely will you actually get a journeyman to apply. It's typically all brand new people. So some of them have completed a 9-month program, kind of the first phase of the program. Some of them are right out of school, haven't taken a class at all. So I guess I would say it would depend. And that's also part of the reason too why, like, when staff are retiring, they give notice, so we can also kind of plan ahead for those things. So even like with Mike's departure, that wasn't, hey, I'm retiring next week. We've known for some time that was coming. Gives us time to kind of work through some of this analysis. So
I'll make a motion to approve the hiring of 2 seasonal workers as outlined.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion?
I just think this is like a triple win situation for the city. I mean, it kind of covers everything you want to cover, so this is a great way to do it here. So, and then if, you have 2 people that are really close, maybe that person could come in next summer, and already have some
yeah,
time behind
exactly.
them. So, but I think it's just the right thing to do.
I think one thing is showing that the city is planning ahead for these things. We're not getting surprises, just like when the bridge opened up, everybody thought it was gonna be boom, but we are ready for the growth. A lot of communities aren't, but we've been ready, and I don't think we've been surprised very often. Thanks for the leadership, I guess you could say. Any other questions? If not, take the motion and take a vote.
Alderman Grady,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, request authorization to solicit bids for contracted underground construction.
So this item and actually our next agenda item also went to the Utility Commission last week. Both of these are just pertaining to authorization to solicit bids. So both of these projects were included in our capital improvement plan for this year. So this first item is for contracted underground work. You can see in the memo, have a breakdown specifically of what parts of the city and what projects. We have estimates for each of those. And so staff would solicit bids. This is, again, underground work that we would not be able to do in-house. These bids would go back to the Utility Commission and to the City Council at future meetings. So tonight would just be getting authorization to go and get bids for the work.
I'd make a motion to approve the solicitation of bills for underground construction and replacement of poles.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Take the roll, please.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Grady.
Yes.
Next item is request authorization to solicit bids for contracted pole replacement.
I just did that one.
Oh, yep. Craig's motion
mean-
just combined the two.
Oh, you just, okay,
Yep,
that's fine, okay. I heard you say that, but we didn't get to that one.
Oh, yeah, well, I don't know if there's any.
Fire Board recommendation, 2026 capital projects.
And Council. The Fire Advisory Board met on February 18th, and at that meeting, we discussed the capital projects that were planned for 2026. While the largest capital project that is planned is the replacement of truck 3265, which was authorized in late 2025, and we expect delivery later this year. There were also several other smaller related capital projects that we discussed. The total of those projects is $92,547 and would include the replacement of SCBA bottles, the replacement of chutes in addition of camera on the tenders, some structural fire gear that would be replacing existing, the replacement of handheld radios, annual replacement of our larger diameter hose, and then replacement of some smaller pieces of equipment and or addition of equipment. So at the meeting, the Fire Advisory Board is recommending moving forward with these projects. Because they are capital in nature, we are bringing it forward to both the Fire Advisory Board and the City Council to move forward with
I'd make a motion to approve those projects.
Go ahead.
I'll second.
And that's, the 92 is our portion, or the 92 is total?
that would be total. So ours is roughly 50% of that.
Thanks.
We put our own money away for a new truck. How much do we have saved right now?
So that is a budgetary number that the Fire Advisory Board would like to use. So we've been reflecting, what each jurisdiction, if they were to set aside those funds, would look like. we as a city haven't been in a position to utilize cash, to have those on hand. Through one of our carry forwards, we do have a portion currently on hand. And I need to grab that number because I don't want to misspeak.
1,400?
We have $65,270 on hand of the city's funds that would go to lessen the debt that we would issue for the truck replacement. But the majority of the cost that the city would have would be issued through debt.
When is the truck coming?
Have an exact date yet?
Yeah, so the initial schedule is for December of this year, but obviously it just depends, you know, I would be very surprised if it was earlier than that. If anything, it would be in early 2027. They've said December, but it'll just depend on the rate of production here as we go through.
And what is the total cost of the truck?
A little over $1 million.
We're about, what, 53% of that?
Yeah, roughly that. Yep.
I'm not sure I understood your answer. Sorry. We don't have money set aside.
So we have a small portion that was set aside.
65 grand.
65,000 at one point.
That's the
And-
tires.
Yeah.
But annually, we haven't been setting aside.
Right. And actually, for what it's worth, my take from being on the fire board, as we talked about, I'm not sure if any of the townships or most of them don't set it aside either. We provide them the data to say, you know, here's what you should be if you want to do that. And I understand why, but I'm just saying that most units of government that we're involved with they don't put money away for that.
Should we be looking, let's say, 50,000 a year? So we have that fund build up, because there'll be another truck coming down the line. And then we'll be doing it in small increments as we go along, instead of getting that 500, maybe $550,000 bill.
I think that's a worthwhile question for discussion, because it gets to the heart of, obviously, you put money aside. It's just like in your home, you put money aside, you've got some earnings off of that. You don't have to borrow as much and you don't have to incur that cost. But there is really the other issue of the will of folks funding something that, hasn't necessarily been determined. And I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying I think that's part of the challenge there.
People see it both ways.
Right.
And that's sometimes you have to make that decision on which way do you want to go. But that means something for next year's budget or whatever.
We already do that. We already do that with certain things, don't we?
Well, I mean, part of the other challenge has been levy limits. And so we've tried to use the capital replacement fund to utilize cash on hand for those shorter lived assets or more frequently turned assets. So, for example, police squad cars, we're trying to utilize the capital replacement fund because those vehicles are being replaced every 4 years. We have also tried to utilize that fund so that, radio replacements or taser replacements, smaller types of equipment that maybe are lasting the 5-year mark, we aren't having to go out and issue debt for. Unfortunately, we just haven't been in a position where we had the capacity to increase, but I think it's something that we would strive to try to find, what is a balance moving forward that we can do within the budget. But looking holistically at kind of the fleet management of the entire city, because the more that we can utilize cash on hand, right, at the lower the cost of the piece of equipment or the replacement of it. So it's just an environment can be challenging in municipal government.
And I actually think there's what I consider kind of a perverse relationship the state has laid out to incentivize to borrow money to municipalities. As Rand said, we only have so much capacity for levy. And
But
if
only because we're growing.
Well, I mean, a lot of communities don't even have that on their behalf, but then we have these other growing expenses. But it's like they've created this environment where it says, well, borrow. That's the way you can kind of work the budget numbers. And it creates a challenging environment if you took the position you wanted to save money for expenditures that you knew you were going to have.
That's what
but
the
that's
capital
the
improvement
challenge.
plan is. We've been
that
doing it for
decision.
years.
Right, but I'm saying that even today, if the feeling of this body was, hey, we want to put money aside for these expenditures we know are coming down the road, okay? Then that means that other things that you have, you can't fund, that you maybe need to fund.
True.
But boy, go ahead and borrow the money, you're good to go, right? That's when I say perverse relationship,
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
I get what you're saying, but that's exactly what we're gonna have to do with the fire truck. We're gonna have to borrow the money.
Right.
And Jim's point was, do what we're already doing.
Right, but he was suggesting that, well, he asked the question, couldn't you possibly put money aside? And the hard part is the budget really has never left us room to do that because we're limited.
Oh, we never looked at it that way. And then see if that's more important than something else, but that's, again, a decision for the council. Because you see what other cities have to do. They have to go to referendum to meet their budgets a lot of times.
Tough.
Well, we're lucky that we are growing, so we're not facing that situation, hopefully never. But I mean, that's the way I see it right now. Any other questions?
No.
Take the roll, please.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Breeze?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Grady?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, fluoride referendum update.
So no action is needed on this item tonight. This is our last televised council meeting before the April election, so just wanted to bring some visibility and a reminder to those who might be watching the council meeting on video that we do have the referendum on the ballot on April 7th. We do have a frequently asked question document on the Richmond Utility website. If any of the council members have feedback, feel free to let Stacy Running or myself know, and we can update that. Or if there's additional questions that you've heard from folks that you think we should add on to that. In March, we'll also have some additional content that will go on Facebook, and we'll also have a video that will go out. And we do have paper handouts here at the utility office window. And then in the bills, you won't see an actual bill insert coming, but there will be a notice on the bill itself printed as another reminder. And then if there's any questions that the community might have that aren't addressed, they're certainly welcome to reach out to staff anytime, and we're happy to answer them. So no action needed on this, just wanted to bring some additional attention to the referendum on April 7th.
Any agenda topics for future meetings? Not. Any announcements, Michelle?
Sorry, I have a lot, but I can talk really fast. We're having a boards and commissions reception and a big thanks to Mayor Zakowski and Alderman Kittle on March 30th from 4:30 to 5:30. It'll be open house style, hopefully some embarrassing pictures of, only nice stuff and cake. So all are welcome. Tomorrow evening, the New Richmond Police Department is having their graduation ceremony for their Citizens Academy. So anyone who wants to attend that is welcome. And a thanks to all those who participated. The sample ballots for the April 7th election are available on My Vote, and they will be linked to the city's website tomorrow and then also on Facebook. So feel free to check those out. And then anyone who's been watching on Facebook, there's a gentleman named Noah Coughlin who is running across the United States and going through New Richmond tomorrow. He's actually staying in New Richmond tonight and running out of town tomorrow morning.
I thought he was at Dalton's, and I walked down to wave to him, and I didn't know where he is. I didn't see that he's.
What's his last name?
Yes.
You know what route he's taking?
I don't. And so we're trying to get information that we can link through to our Facebook page, but I believe he'll be heading out from the south end, kind of by Culver's Best Western Plus, and heading north around 8 tomorrow morning. But in other communities, there has been some difficulty with people just stopping their car on the road to wave or honk. So folks who want to come on downtown and wave to him from the sidewalk safely, we're really encouraging that. So yeah, tomorrow morning he'll be coming through.
What was his last name?
Coughlin, Coughlan.
It wasn't Wiedenfeld.
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
Oh wait, no.
At least his third time
Yeah,
traversing the United States east to west.
yeah.
Where did you start?
He
This time
started in
started
Maine.
on the East Coast. He started in Maine.
He started in Maine.
Started in Maine, but he's done a southern route back in like 2011, and then I don't remember, it was 14 or 15, he did another route. And this particular trip, you can go on his website. He's gonna go across Alaska and Hawaii. So I asked Michelle, how does a person walk to Hawaii? And she said, well, he's gonna be in the boat, but he'll be walking in place. So I don't know.
That
but
first step in Alaska is going to be tricky getting to Hawaii. I'll
You're
tell you
right.
that.
You're absolutely right.
You're gonna walk on a boat the whole way.
It's pretty cool. He's got some really warm welcomes across the country, but I think New Richmond can step up and make them feel welcome as well.
Any other announcements? If not, I'm making a motion to need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to state statute 19.851E, deliberating and negotiating.
I so move.
Public properties.
Oh, sorry. I so move.
I'll second.
Second?
Scott seconded it. Jim.
Okay, take the roll.
Alderman Vreese,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Grady,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
We're in closed session. Wait, everybody want to take a break for 5 minutes?
Don't even